You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Now, before we... so we've got Richard Wollstonecroft.
Thank you, sir.
Muff Man. We got Ivan. Tony Sheehan, who, if he hasn't been belted around the ears by the general public, said he'd come back in, but he's not here yet. And Sue Stanley, OAM, is just on another mission at the minute, and maybe they'll all turn up.
Geez, there's a few missions going on. Wasn't there a big mission just a month ago or two months ago with a person that used to sit in this seat here?
Yes, Don, of course. Now, before we get on to, just before we ask you to prepare yourself for this sickening round of pandering and nonsense that's going to go on Australia Day, would there be a chance that someone could take this country back and run it properly, not to the detriment of any people who were here first or any people who were here last? Could we embrace the country we live in and someone in authority take the country back and say, this, what you wait till we canvass this, the bullshit and the pariahs that run down this country for political, for wokeism, for their own particular... Most of them are as white as the driven snow and wouldn't be here and wouldn't live in this country and wouldn't have the jobs they have if they hadn't embraced what happened when settlement came here. If we could all... And the more you talk about colour, the more you prop up their political agenda, which is division, because there's money in it for them. But before we start on that, I thought, I don't know what's happened to the doc, Ben Fordham. I reckon he's given us the flick. But that's either bigger,
I don't think he has.
Bigger fish to fry.
He
but
does.
We've got the phone on just on the off chance he rings in.
Come on, Doc.
Dr. Ben Fordham, MD.
Well, I think it's his second week back at work. He's been on holiday.
And your point?
Well, you got to slide into these things. Maybe there's big issues around the Christmas party or something last year.
You imbecile, Ivan. The doc can slide into anything at the drop of a hat. And the only reason I bring him up is that he says, don't give out shout-outs and all that. But we started giving comments out about people who listen to this, and you wouldn't believe how many there are, and only 98% of them are absolutely complimentary. But
it's the 2% that you're going to read out, isn't it?
Well, it's not the two. I don't want to encourage people to think, they'll get a mention if they give us a slagging. Yeah. But
that's what's going to happen.
But we'll no, we won't. So I'll just to start with, Ben.
Dr. Ben.
No, Ben Lerney. This is about Tony didn't fit in well. Ooh. This is Tony Sheehan. Dick, Ivan and Suzanne OAM are perfect. Now there you
go. Pay that man $50,
yeah,
Sam.
Right. Oh, well, that's all right. That's
Greg Cornell said, you've had 3 Sheehans on. We did. We had Mick and we've just had Tony. And he said, and don't forget Lizzie. Lizzie was one of Mick's daughters who came on here, and she was about as she had disagreed with every single thing that I stand for or said. So she came on, and
Lizzie Sheehan.
So that was all right. Don't forget Lizzie. Well, we haven't forgotten Lizzie. Greg, Brad said, "Have I had a spray tan?" Now seriously, but Brad.
Because
I've got
he
a
could be
brown
onto
face.
something.
Could he?
Yes.
Yeah, you reckon I've had a spray tan, do you, Ivan?
No, I don't think. Not this time.
That's right. I drove around in an old convertible car, and I go out a bit of boating when it's hot, and it's been some of the days have been hot. I haven't had a spray tan. And
you're an outdoors man, that's all.
You can get into trouble for having a spray tan. You can get, you can end up making yourself brown.
It depends
when you're not brown. God Almighty, that's
can't blacken up too much.
Oh no,
Stan Grant seems to have embraced that. But
Stan Warrendigi, Stan Grant. He's just used that as part of his name. Never did when he was on mainstream media. But that's good. Well done, Richard. 777 said Greg Madigan. Do you remember him?
Yes, he was good.
He said
Marcelin boy.
He said Greg was great.
Yeah,
and then
then slagged off about
the
everyone else.
statistic dancer. This is another man, a static dancer said, "How in the," and he said, "Fuck." He said, "How in the fuck can you say weight is not an important statistic?" Remember we said that the weights have now not being indicated because we said the women don't want their weights published, so that filters down through the whole competition, and no men or women or anyone in between has their weights published because it might be fat shaming, I don't know what it is, but the weights are not now indicated. And Greg said he thought that was fair enough. Now, I know he didn't think that was fair enough. No, I shouldn't say that.
No, don't put words into his mouth.
No, I don't. How wouldn't weight be?
But that was a topic of conversation during the week. People said to me, their kids want to aspire to be someone like Stephen Johnson from Geelong or something like that. They want to say, wow, what weight is he? How can I be like him? I can't do anything about the height.
I think a lot of sports fans love stats, and it's just one of those things, you know, that you, if you're into that, you want to find out about the horse flesh, so to speak.
It is complete and utter nonsense. And that's people. Could someone eventually, in all departments of commerce and the industry and the country, could someone take the country back and say enough of this bullshit? I mean, seriously, how simple-minded do you think the public are that you can correlate mentioning someone's weight with the fact that they're obese and they're overweight and gee, we're fat shaming them? Seriously, who do you think you're speaking to? We are not insects.
What about a common sense party? You know, we haven't had one of them in a while, have we? Yeah. And because if you notice the way the Liberal Party has gone along with a lot of this woke rubbish, it's like they feel they need to pander to the climate change nonsense. They feel they need to pander to the welcome to country, to this, that and the other.
Anthony McGovern or someone, Anthony McGovern? He said, "Thanks for clearing up about why Don is not here."
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, how many times do you have to say it? Don was here as a great part of this, but he was deliberately antagonistic, so much so that he knew eventually I'd say, tell him to fuck off, because that's probably what he wanted in the first place, because he had to travel up from a long way away and he never prepared anything, but he liked it. He liked people saying he listened to the podcast, but as I said, the doc said a long time ago to me, Don's playing you on a break. He's not as silly as you think he is, and I'm starting to agree with that. He worked it beautifully so that I would eventually tell him to go, and he'd say, "Right, I'm going," and he's gone.
And he did. He just closed his book.
Very good man. Very, I like him a lot.
Took his ball and bat and went home, did he?
Yeah, very good.
But at least we put that to rest. At least you said that. I think that was the clearest time last week that you
Marcus Schubert
referenced.
Schubert. Someone said Tony Sheehan interjects more than Don did. Well, that's gone to a new high.
Where is Tony? It's not as if he's slept in.
Maybe he's borrowed an Uber on the way down here.
Dan LaRouter says, because I said Router. I said Dermot was going to come on, and he said, was Dermot muzzled?
Was he? Was he, Sam?
Dermot absolutely was muzzled by the little organisation he works for, because they.
And who is that?
That little organisation that he works for, Fox Footy, said that they said, "Oh no," because I think they were frightened Dermot might say something that people might embrace and be interested in, rather than the nonsense he's asked to speak on that little show.
Isn't Fox right wing technically? You know,
Dermot's a very good operator, but is Dermot a bit loose at some times? Is that what everyone's worried about?
You've got control to within an inch of your life about what you say.
I've got to get Dermot on then.
I was interviewed 4 times on Fox when Mick used to do open mic, and then suddenly I said something was controversial or something blew up on the podcast, and I was scheduled to go in there, and they said, "Oh no, you can't come in." I said, "Oh well, gee, thanks a lot," because I was only doing them a favour. Michael, a bloke called Michael Dalton.
Michael Dalton?
Yeah, well, I presume that's his name. He said I wouldn't be game to reply to him because he made said, "Mick, I don't know who you think you are, Mick, but I'm very game to reply to you. Here's my reply. You are a cocksmack." And you are probably, I don't know if that's your real name, but you are probably a result of what happens when cousins fuck. So what do you mean I'm not going to reply to you? What is this? Thanks for listening. Really, and I'm sure you'll be listening to that and think, oh, that's... Yep. And you'll give us another touch-up, whatever that was. Ben Kramer, Muffman, is an anti-Semite. Are you anti-Semitic, Muffman?
No, I'm not, Sam.
He thinks that you think Hamas are funding the... I don't know, what did you say about...
I said something about
Israel.
that Israel had funded Hamas, which I think is actually true in the sense that when the Palestinian Liberation Organization separated from Hamas, or when Hamas was created, that I think Israel wanted another person to deal with because they hated the PLO so much. So it is actually true if you look into it, and I'm not the only person to bring that up. It's I've been on Tucker Carlson and on a number of other shows, so
who has?
That
you
issue.
Have?
No, I haven't.
Oh, no.
But the issue. Israel has funded Hamas. I mean, obviously, you probably might need an expert in that area. We could get an expert on the Middle East to discuss that. Obviously, it's a very complex situation, what's going on there, so we can't jump...
So the guy from the kebab shop, I might ask him.
You bring him down, the Muslim kebab shop guy. I'll have an interesting...
Well, we might speak to Ida Buttrose, who's got the flick because she sacked someone who...
Yes.
Well, the ABC sacked someone that was saying that
pro-Palestinian
Israel was the Israeli army were not guilty of genocide, but kept bombing people and
it's interesting.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, you got to watch Al Jazeera is a fantastic station to watch if you want to get a good. Handle on unbiased political reporting. They just say the same things day after day, that people are getting killed and died as a result of Israel trying to find the hidden tunnels and wipe Hamas out. Yep. That go, and I'm not taking sides, as I say, keep saying you have no skin in the game at all.
Now,
it's embarrassing. You just watch and they say the same things. They've been saying them for 100 days.
And it's interesting that the American army is over in the Middle East. It's involved in Ukraine. It's involved in all these conflicts in the Middle East. And yet there's an invasion happening at the US border. Where's the US army there? The country is being invaded from the south.
I think that's
and
going to
the
change
US army
in
is nowhere to
November.
be seen.
Now,
so just on that, just on Al Jazeera, which is a good
I've watched
show.
that. It's good.
However, I might be wrong here, so you can tell me I'm wrong. Is that funded by Qatar, who the leader of Hamas lives in Qatar?
Yeah.
It is. It's out. It's broadcast out of Qatar.
It's pro-Muslim, obviously, and it's pro-Palestinian.
No, Of course it is. The other mainstream or the other
I suppose
cable
the
networks.
opposing side's got their stuff.
What's interesting at the moment, because many left-wingers are pro-Palestinian, you know what I mean, and yet there is also a pro-Zionist within much right-wing media in the West. And also, too, there's a conflict at the moment going on within the left, on this issue, which is obviously what the Ida Buttrose thing was about, because there are a lot of left-wingers who are like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? All these women and children being bombed. Is this an appropriate reaction to what Hamas did, et cetera, et cetera?
So we're just going to get on to Australia Day in a minute. We're just warming up to get on to the absolute arrogance and cowardice of people running major sporting networks and having the tail wagging the dog. It is. Thank God we are Australian, but it is cringeworthy to watch these people. It is, but we'll get on to that in a minute. Just a light-hearted thing. So, just speaking about the tennis, could you tell me what is the rationale? I know what you're going to say, but why can't you put up when Mr. Medvedev plays, or the woman who's the leading Russian tennis player at the minute, number one, why can't you put up that they come from Russia? What is that? Russia is there, whether
you like it or not.
If you had someone from Rwanda or Uganda or bloody where else there's other
Belarus.
You
can't uncountry someone because you don't like that country, Sam. You know what I mean?
Who are you, China or something?
Say we don't like China. All the Chinese competitors suddenly don't come from China.
That is so small-minded. That is just so petty.
I just wonder how long this goes on for. Is it next year? Is it the year after? Or is it until they
till Ukraine is wiped? I don't know.
Yeah.
So then about the tennis. So then you watch. Tell me why the televising network, which is Channel 9, there's a man there that goes every day, and he dresses in a yellow jacket, and he has a stuffed kangaroo, and every time there's a point one, he jumps up and shouts and waves the camera. Why would you put the camera on that man? That man is nothing but just a parading man who wants to get his face on television. How could you do that? What sort of mentality would you have to jump up and do that? Bring the stuffed kangaroo in the first place, dress up and jump up and shout every time there's a point, hoping, and you can see him looking at the monitor when he's on.
Waiting
And
for
he
him.
just
Yes.
springs into action. Why that? So never blame the people who work for you, blame the people who employ you. Why would you focus on that? Speaking of that,
Because it annoys you, maybe.
on what basis would you have to bring your baby to the tennis, and knowing that it will, when the baby starts crying?
That's crazy. Isn't
My
it?
one and only topic. He's just gazumped
Well,
me.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's ridiculous. You watched the game last night between, I can't pronounce his name, and Djokovic. They had to wait so there was toddlers, there was babies. The camera actually, so this is a story too. So the cameraman or the director obviously decided to put the mother and the baby as they're walking back down the stairs to her seat.
Yep.
It's so many times. So that happened last night. It happened a few nights ago. So they're not allowed to say, "Oh no, sorry, ma'am, you can't come down here with your screaming baby," or "Please keep your toddler under control." But it's crazy, isn't it?
Like going to a restaurant and sitting next to a screaming kid in a restaurant
But no one's going to say anything.
Just take the baby out, and you say, because we have a baby, we should be able to go out. No, that's not right. If you go to a tennis match, you shouldn't be allowed to bring a baby in. That's unfortunately how it works. Get someone to mind it at home.
Now,
Babysitter.
Speaking of the tennis, I can let the listeners know you went to the tennis, didn't you?
I did.
Oh.
And you went to the game that Djokovic turned around and gestured to the crowd. Now, wasn't you that said to Djokovic, go and get vaccinated? I don't think it would be.
No, it wouldn't be, because I was in absolute agreement, vehement agreement with him. We only got vaccinated because you couldn't step outside in this police state run by that moron of a man who's no longer there. You couldn't function because of some law that was completely unjust. Not unjust. I think it was against the law for the laws that he brought in. Anyhow, and I notice also now there's a Chinese liquor company with 4 numbers on it up in the back of the court. It's a 52% alcoholic content for that liquor.
Yep.
I didn't know, and there was a bit of a debate. Someone said that you're not allowed to advertise liquor on mainstream television, and then they said, well, you could if it's a naming rights sponsor, and then they said, well, you can allow it to. The law is that people under 25 or under 24 are not to be exposed to alcohol advertising except after 8 p.m. And I said, well, does that mean during the day games they take the sign down? Of course they don't. Yeah. Maybe it's completely legitimate that they can advertise 52% alcoholic content for that Chinese liquor, which is plastered up at the back of the thing. Not trying to be a killjoy, but is there maybe, if they're a naming right, it doesn't matter. Foster's and Heineken can sponsor the Grand Prix. I don't know. Someone said it was not allowed to happen during the day because it was directly aimed at people who are under 24 because they go to the tennis. Mightn't be directly aimed, but it was indirectly aimed at them because they're part of the audience.
Well, laws for some and not the others.
Maybe they are absolutely lawful in doing what they do.
There's the Canadian Club Lounge and there's the Moet.
I don't like the government getting involved in advertising. If people want to advertise their product, whether it be cigarettes or alcohol, I think you should let them.
Cigarettes, what have the big the
Marlboro
Australian
Man?
Opens,
Yep.
the Australian Open sponsored by Marlboro.
The Marlboro Man.
Well, lots of luck with that, Dick. Yeah, that'll go over like a wrought iron hang glider. So
Probably the Marlboro woman or the Marlboro
and
trans.
then I know. Please, I know you're going to take this the wrong way. So then, how cringeworthy can you get to show that you are woke and you are Citibank now? I think Citibank are advocating that we get wheelchair ball boys or ball girls. Oh. They're going to say they should trial wheelchair ball boys and ball girls to clear the balls off the court, where the able-bodied girls and boys rush across and clear it up with a minimum of fuss and get out of the way.
Yep.
What is the point besides showing how feign your virtuosity? What is the point of that? And this is not a slight on people who are disabled or in wheelchairs. Tell me how that would work. It would take the focus off the tennis. It would frustrate the players. It is a ridiculous, unworkable, distracting thing that would happen just in the name of being diverse and equitable and inclusive. And we are all diverse, equitable, inclusive, but could you think of a more ridiculous thing to do? Wheelchair ball people clearing up the balls. Honestly, how do they come up with this stuff? And why?
Destructive.
The way Djokovic was gesturing to the ball kids, I swear, I wouldn't want to be in a wheelchair having to deal with him. Pick this up.
The whole idea is to get in there
able-bodied.
quickly, to pick the ball up and get out of the way. And imagine if you've got to wait for like 30 seconds for the guy to wheel in, pick up the ball, 30 seconds to wheel off the court.
I reckon Djokovic would wheel them over, put the ball in their hand and wheel them back just to hurry the point up.
Ivan, we're not making fun of them. We're not.
No, they want the game to go fast. That's the thing.
The illogicality of having someone in a wheelchair skirt out. What is that necessary to do that? We can be inclusive and diverse in a whole lot of other areas.
Other ways, yes.
You couldn't think of a more unwieldy, unworkable project for someone to clear the balls away just so the players can get on with the second serve or whatever, and just have to wait, and they'll become the focus of the crowd. The crowd will clap.
The problem is ideology. We used to have a society based on meritocracy, which is why the most talented people would do.
What's that word?
You know what I mean?
What's
meritocracy? Job on your merits.
Oh, right.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Tony's arrived. Tony Sheehan's arrived. I'm glad you brought that up. So have a listen to this. Now, very glad you brought this up. Yeah, have a go at this. Right. Here's victoria.gov.au. The Department of Justice and Community Safety, under the auspices of the Victorian Government, have got an advertisement for a person to get this job in the Department of Justice and Community Safety. We embrace diversity, this is the government saying this, we embrace diversity and strive to have a workforce that reflects the community we serve. We are all about recruiting the best people regardless of gender, age, disability, religion, sexual orientation or cultural background. If you think you can do the job and would be a good fit for our department, we'd love to hear from you. The base salary starts off at $241,000 a year,
Christ.
And you get a 3.5 year tenure. So you got the job for 3.5 years.
$750,000.
So that's, and you think, well, that's fantastic.
Have they given the job? What do you have to do?
Hang on.
All right, sorry.
So it says.
Sign us up.
So it says, we embrace diversity and strive to have a workforce that reflects. I've just said that. Now have a listen. This is the bottom. This is on the bottom of it.
Yeah. Asterisks.
This is, you talk about meritocracy, and it's an all-embracing ad for, we want the best person for the job. This is a prioritised role for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and will be given priority and consideration for the job. Now, there's your... How you couldn't make that stuff up.
It's like double speak, isn't it, Sam?
That is just good on them if you want, but don't say apply, because if you're not of Aboriginal or Torres Strait, you won't be considered.
Yep.
Just say that.
See, that's the ideology of diversity, equity and inclusion versus meritocracy. And it's weird because at the top it says it's a meritocracy, and then at the bottom it's got the ideology of diversity, which is DEI or die. Well, die. Some people pronounce it.
So Tony Sheehan has condescended to come here.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
were you going to sit over there, or are you coming here?
Well, I didn't know I was going to be on air. So
Well, don't speak off air.
You
so
got to come over to
here,
talk.
grab
Over
it,
here.
pull up a pew.
I just said that we're not sure if you're coming in or not after the browbeating you gave me last week.
We
And,
waited for a while, but we thought,
so
no,
sit
you wouldn't
down
have slept
pull
in.
the microphone up in front of you. Pull the microphone up in front of
Good
you.
morning, everybody.
Morning, Tony.
So how did you go last week after... I don't know why there was any controversy about that because, mate, you did something some time ago. You got to own it. We asked you about it. You gave us your answer. You gave us your opinion on it. Nothing was... no one died, did they?
No, they did not.
Right. How'd you go? Did everything all right at home, or did you hear from your next of kin, or anything?
I heard from a few people. But
Did you?
anyway,
What did they say?
well, they thought it was entertaining. They thought that you had a bee in your bonnet and that was hopefully that all animosity is dispersed as of last week.
Tony, if there was any animosity, you wouldn't be here. I had a bee in my bonnet. Did you tell them how the conversation... I'm not going to
Well,
go
we're
over
not
it
going
again.
over this, Sam.
Did you tell me Did you tell those people who obviously didn't listen how the conversation started?
Yes, I initiated the conversation.
Yes, you said, I haven't heard from you for a while. I won't go with it. And I said, you've been off the grid for a long time. That's how it started.
Correct.
And I said, why were you off the grid? And then you gave a very, very... you gave your version of...
We're not going over this, Sam.
No, we're not. So,
But off the grid, it sounds like he's in a commune.
but other
Maybe
than,
he was. We don't
yeah,
know.
I was in Byron.
kibbutz.
Byron. Oh, there you go.
So other than that, Tony, and then people said you were very good on the second half, and so we've just read out some comments. They said you interrupt more than Don Scott used to.
So he'd slot right in.
But we've said people said you were very good with once we got the first segment out of the way. So there we are. So
Well, to all those who wrote in, thank you very much.
well, they do it on the social media. There's hundreds of them. We just read out a few comments, which is what we do, and we haven't got on. We're going to, seeing as we've gone this far, we're going to do the Australia Day stuff in the second part. So we'll just get all the peripheral stuff here. Now, here's the thing, Tony. Everyone, rather, they've done a study. Now, tell me, the point of bringing this up is, who thinks up this stuff? Like, who thinks up wheelchair ball boys for tennis? Who thinks up this stuff? They've done a study saying that 70 to 80-year-old people lose their sense of smell, because you lose your sense of smell as you get on. Apparently, that makes you walk slower. So no, I know you think I'm making this up. Yeah. So between 70 and 80, they interviewed and did a survey on people who were 70, 80, who had lost their sense of smell. So I presume they put perfumes or something under their noses and they couldn't detect them from people who are under 70. And then they said, and that was a factor that made them walk slower.
Well, I know when
Why would it matter if you walked slower if you're 70 or 80? And who the fuck would give that? Who would give money to an institution to do that as a study?
Well, that's a grant, isn't
Sounds
it?
like the people who
But
study
I
climate
know,
change. Right?
walking down Burke Street, if I smell something, it's like, whoa, what? That smells all right. And then I walk a bit quicker. If I didn't have my sense of smell, then I wouldn't know. And
let me just get that straight, Ivan. You walking down Burke Street and you smell something and you walk a bit quicker. Is that a nice smell, or is it a pungent smell, or is it a woman with perfume, or a man, or a person with perfume, or what makes you walk quicker?
Yeah, well, people.
Could even be a vagrant.
no, I was thinking more
Homeless gentleman.
food.
Yeah, off garbage rotting.
No, like nice food, like pies and sausage rolls and
That gets
things
them
like that.
How
What did you think? Oh, do you think, okay, the other way, like there's a nice woman walking up
I
ahead,
didn't
so
know
I
you
just do a
could
double
be
step.
smelling the pheromones in the air from her that or person rather. Could just anyone, man, as long as you're standing erect and breathing, you're through to the semis without dropping a set. So what do you think about it? Who would give money to do a study like that? What's the relevance of that study, Tone?
Or maybe the Wheelchair Association.
No, listen. We're not making fun of people in wheelchairs at all. You weren't here though. Citibank, I think. Citibank
One of the most powerful institutions on the planet.
Citibank.
Yes.
Yes, they do that ad that just drives you mad where the woman's going to buy a car and she said, I've got the keys to this car. And she says, no way. Anyhow, no way. So Citibank, I think it is, are thinking that they should train wheelchair people to clear the balls away at tennis matches. Can you think of anything more? What
That's
would
clearly
what
part
would you
of-
do that for? And this is nothing, not a slight on anyone who's in a wheelchair. For
That's
heaven's
part of
sake.
diversity, equity, inclusion that we spoke about before in relation to.
I think that's a good idea, Tone.
No,
Would
I
you
don't
like to
see
go
it.
to the tennis and have the whole focus of the tennis on the people clearing the balls away rather than who is playing the game?
Well, I think it would slow down the game.
Exactly, and it would.
Well, that's the thing. The game is meant to be quick, isn't it?
Well,
Correct.
that part of it's meant to be. You're not meant to notice that. They get out of the way quickly. Honestly,
It's like a housekeeping issue.
Well, I don't even think Dylan Alcock could be able to do this.
Dylan,
True.
Well, no, I was imitating Bill Brownless, who labelled him Dylan Alcock.
Dylan Alcott.
Billy.
He did. It
Is that his name?
was Alcott, as you said, yes.
Alcott. Yeah, I thought his name was Alcott. Dylan Alcott. I'm sure Dylan Alcott would say he thinks that's a bit ridiculous. I'm not sure that he would say that. But
Well,
I mean,
Sam,
honestly,
as Tony Jones said, Dylan Alcott can do almost anything. And Dylan responded with, except walk.
That's
Well, at least he
that's
can take the piss out of himself.
That's exactly right.
Sam, that's Ahmed.
I've wondered who would come in.
Oh,
My God.
Oh, my God.
Have a look who's coming in.
yep. All right.
Holy shit. All right.
All right.
Well,
This
now,
will be interesting.
you won't
All right.
believe who's just walked into the studio. Ricky Nixon. Sit down. Come here. Get that chair there. Where are you? Bring that chair over here. Get that out of the way. Take that out of the way.
Ricky, how are you?
Hang on
That's the
just
way.
a minute. You better bring it round. You better bring it round here. We've only got so many
Sam,
microphones.
Ricky can sit in this seat and speak on this microphone.
Why?
Well, so I don't.
Well, you've come in here to
You come over here, mate.
Well,
We'll share a microphone.
Under
No,
different...
stay there.
All right, Ricky.
Go over
you
there
sit
for a
here.
minute, Ivan. Go over there. Now, last week, I have no idea why you're in here, Ricky, but last week,
Yep.
we had a chat to Tony about some of the things he's been up to. I was inundated last week by people said you'd been arrested by the coppers. You had were in jail and you'd been handcuffed and you hadn't turned up to court. And I was only told this, and they said, "What's happened to your," in inverted commas, "mate?" And I said, "I don't know. What are you talking about it?"
Meanwhile, I was at the Flower Drum Chinese, having the best lunch of all time, having some great wines, enjoying myself, while the rest of the world just carries on like idiots
Over that matter.
over that matter.
So I said to Tony last week that he was just a rung down from you,
We're not going over this, Sam.
and you thought I meant that you were you were elevated above him with all this nonsense and stupidity. I said you're a rung down. No one could beat that man. No one could beat the chicken here. Toot toot. No one could beat him here with the bullshit that he A speaks and B that follows him around. Every time there's anything in the paper, it's about you either not turning up at court, belting a copper, punching a newsman. Where are we up to at this stage?
Well, so far, the building the copper, that was dismissed after one joke of an interview. Secondly, last week, the police have been very good. They've apologised for what happened, but it wasn't their fault. It was the court's technical error.
I see.
The court didn't bother to apologise. Of course, I get the publicity over it all. But anyway, picked up 10 speaking gigs, so I'm happy.
That works.
Yeah, works every time. Well, not all for me, but for some other people and some for me.
Sam, there might be a follow-up question to that, Ricky.
Go ahead,
Go ahead, Tony.
I'd like to see
Geez, I can't- I'm
the
looking
junior
forward to the-
partner of this
firm, the firm.
collaboration here, the Nixon Sheehan collaboration.
Conglomerate.
Have a chat to him. This will
Don't
be good.
expose anything.
Have a chat to him. What did you
Ricky,
get
are there any legal proceedings following that clerical error from the courts?
As in, will I be doing any?
Yes.
Let's just wait and see what happens the next couple of weeks.
Well, elaborate.
Well, we'll just wait and see what happens the next couple of weeks.
Have you spoken to a lawyer?
I speak to my lawyer 25 times a day.
Was that matter discussed?
It's been discussed.
Are you seeking financial
Recompense?
I think there's two words you use when it comes to this sort of thing. Starts with no, finishes in comment. Work it out, Tony.
As Jack Little said, no comment.
No comment.
Remember him, World Championship Wrestling? How about that? No comment. So what you're thinking of suing the coppers, are you, or the courts?
No.
You're not?
I'm not thinking of anything. Other than it
No,
hasn't.
that
The only thing I'm
patently
thinking
obvious.
about is both things haven't gone to court yet.
No.
They haven't gone to court yet. So the media can
They
talk
might
to me
not.
when they do go to court. And
Well,
if they
we're
don't go
talking
to
to you.
if they don't go to court, you got no need to speak to me
And so why are you here?
because I've got to go to court and I need someone to give me a ride. I thought you were available.
Well, I can assist you just as soon as the
No, I'm
podcast-
here to see, once you've finished with Tony Sheehan, I'm here to see him about another matter involving something we're doing at 6 o'clock tonight. Sam,
Tony Shee, you're here to see him about...
when he finishes his talent on here, and the rest of the team wants to get on air anyway, so I'm happy to move on.
What are you seeing Tony Sheehan about at 6 o'clock tonight?
No, I'm not seeing him. I am seeing him at 6, but
Well,
I'm
that same
seeing
meeting
about
that you're
something
involved
to do
in.
with it.
Yeah, no, exactly. What is that?
Do you want me to disclose it?
Well, it's pointless coming in here and saying we're having a meeting with Tony, who I didn't know was coming to a meeting that I was going to. Well, I'm very happy that he is. What meeting are we talking about?
We're talking about something that I'm putting together that's very opposite of everything else in Australia when it comes to media and comment on stuff. It will be a show featuring some of the outlandish boys in Australia, commenting and being involved in discussions and debating various topics. Something you don't see on Fox Sports, Channel 7, SEN radio, etc., etc.
I see. So
Point
I'm
of
coming along to
difference.
this meeting, and now you're just telling me what this meeting's about. You're telling
Well, I
me.
don't like giving you too much information,
No.
Sam. Before
and
you get
young
somewhere.
Tone is coming along and is going to be part of it, is he, or what?
He could be part of it on the off-field side.
And what do we? Because
he's very good.
The doc has texted
Oh.
me.
Here we go.
Larkins or Fordham?
Hang on. Hang on here, just a minute. The doc has texted and he said, "You want me to call in at 9:30?" Well, it's 9:34.
9:34, yeah.
I'm going to say absolutely, now. So here we go. So let's just wait for this. We got everything set up if he rings in. So we're just waiting for the doc to ring in. I thought he'd given him the flick. So we're having a meeting while we're waiting for the doc. Is this
A new show, is it? Or?
Yes, which involves people who are not in the media anymore.
That sounds like a very good idea.
So it could be someone
what's
like
the show about?
Wayne Carey. It could be someone like
Yes.
Dane Swan. It could be someone like, I won't
And
mention
what's
other
the
names.
show about?
It's about the fizz.
About the fizz.
The fizz.
It's called the fizz.
It is
Fizzy.
at the moment. It's called the fizz. At the moment,
So I'm just learning this
Yeah.
I'm learning this live. I
Correct.
might even have to go to the meeting.
Yeah.
So you're asking me and Wayne Carey
yes,
and
Dane
Dane
Swan.
Swan
Yep.
and young Tone here
yes,
to come along to a meeting tonight to explore the possibility of doing something called the fizz.
a new show which will be streamed and broadcast, which will discuss the biggest topics in football / any news. Could be about Australia Day, but it will debate across the show. But there's other things that I've seen overseas that are very successful that I'm going to bring to the table tonight. But I'm not going to discuss them on here.
Fair enough.
It says the doc said he was going to ring in. I said, right, ring now.
Well, he's probably trying to find a room.
A room?
A room.
9:35. Oh, want me to call in at absolutely? Oh no, he said call in at 9:35. So, all right, I'll take that on advisement. It's 9:34, so stand by.
Stand by.
So he'll be intrigued to know that you're here, Ricky, and you're here, Tone, and of course. The Muff Man, he likes the Muff Man, and Ivan, you've become part of the family. There you go up and have Christmas lunch with him and go to his studio. Here he is! Now, see if you can put him to
Make
air.
that work,
You got to
Ivan.
put the earphones on.
Earphone
Now,
time.
Come on, hang on. Come on, just a minute. You can do it.
I'll let you keep
Can you
going.
hear us?
Hello.
Doc, hang on now. We've got to put these things on. Doc, we had
hello?
Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Yes, I can, mate. How are you?
Oh, Doc, I stupidly said you'd given us the flick. I hadn't heard from you. You didn't reply to my text, and I said it was fantastic having the Doc ring in. And bugging me dead, you've rung in.
So what? You threw me under the bus, did you?
No, I said you've obviously. I texted you last week and said thousands of people are waiting for you. Are you coming on? Nothing. Never heard.
Where was that?
This is what I heard.
Well, I was on bloody holidays. I was on holidays.
Well, what? So your fingers are broken, have you? You couldn't text back, say not this week?
Mate, I was having a digital detox. I've just been trying to stay away from my phone. And Sam, I get lots of text messages. You know what I mean? So,
well, how else would I contact you?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I don't know how else you were supposed to do it. But, no, I was just looking and thinking, hang on, Wednesday, I better jump on the line and see what's happening with the podcast.
Well, I'll tell you who's in attendance here. Tony Sheehan. He is.
Whoa!
Tony Sheehan is coming in fresh off the rampage up in Sydney a couple of years ago. Ricky Nixon just walked in. We've asked him has he belted any coppers or he's been to court. He got 42 court dates that he hasn't turned up to. He's explained that. We got the.
Well, he seems to be owed an apology, I gather, Ricky Nixon, because they were suggesting that.
Doc, already had several.
Very good.
In fact,
you've got them here. They were suggesting that you were some kind of villain and you hadn't fronted up to court, but they were wrong and you were right for once.
Yes, well, it looks like that's going to be the future too, going forward.
Now, beautiful. Doc, it's been. Now,
you haven't bagged me for a couple of weeks, Doc. What's going on?
Now, hang on a moment. Weren't you guys in a fist fight a little while ago?
Oh, no, it was just a little friendly love slap.
The answer to that is yes.
So we've moved on from all of that,
I've just come from a boxing conference, which, if you don't mind, Sam, I'll just say what happened in 10 seconds.
What?
But it's just been announced that I've helped put together the biggest boxing night ever. It's going to be in Adelaide the night before the gather round in April this year, April the 3rd. Dane Swan will be fighting Daisy Thomas. Kane Corns will be fighting Nathan Brown. Mitch Robinson will be fighting Kane Pettifer. And Anthony Rocker will be fighting Corey McKernan.
Holy.
All right, Ricky, can you answer this for me, right? Yep. On average, right, we're not going to breach any confidentiality or anything. On average, what does a player earn for jumping in the ring?
Well, that's for their manager to know and you to find out, Doc.
On average. Give me an average.
These fights are anywhere from 20,000 plus up to sort of 50, 60,000. Just depends on the person.
Yeah. Doc, how about this for an idea? Why doesn't Ricky fight Tony?
Because
interesting.
Because I don't want to waste 3 seconds of my life, Sam.
And also I don't have the whiteboard to kind of go through the various relationships involving people associated with Sam Newman and the You Cannot Be Serious podcast. But all I know is that some months ago, the two of you, Ricky Nixon and Sam Newman, were at some function for a cricket club, and there was a dispute over cash payments.
Yes.
And a physical altercation. Now, have you addressed this on the podcast, Ricky?
On the podcast? My word, I have. Because I was maligned unfairly by Mr. Nixon.
There we go.
Well, I was.
Well, let me ask a couple of questions.
Can I just throw this in? I proposed to the promoters and the South Australian government that perhaps Sam and I could get in the ring. But there was this one thing that killed us. Anyone over 50 isn't allowed in the ring, so that just about did us.
How extraordinarily humorous, Nicky.
What a low blow. So Ricky, tell me, when you fronted up against Sam, when you, two of you were toe-to-toe out the back of the cricket club, how scared were you?
I don't think I've ever been scared in my life, to be honest. So that wasn't one of the occasions.
Well, if you never.
Who won the fight?
Sam, hands down. Yeah.
No, Doc, it wasn't a fight. It was a reflex action to a proposed headbutt that Ricky was about to... A proposed headbutt that he was about to lay on me. It was a reflex action. And we've discussed this. We've discussed it on the podcast, and Fiona Byrne wrote it up. How she got the story, I don't know. I reckon Ricky leaked it to her. But look, at the very fact that Tony said there's animosity between he and I. He's here. Animosity between Ricky and I. We've had a fight with him. He's here. I don't know how much.
Doc Fordham is here.
I can't. I can't remember the Tony Sheehan drama.
Oh,
like,
I
why?
can. Oh, I can.
What's the problem there? Like,
would you like a quick recap?
No.
yeah. Well, can Tony give us a recap?
Come
I
on,
mean,
Tony.
who
No.
does?
Give us your side, Tony.
Ben, I'll shoot you a text after the show.
Okay,
Ben,
but
I'll give it to
who do you, Tony? Let me just ask you this: if there was someone out of the two of the people who are sitting there right now, Ricky and Sam, if you had to be stuck on a desert island with one of them, who would it be?
Neither.
Oh God!
The desert.
Would you like a quick recap of what we spoke about last week? Rick, just very quickly.
Sam, we're not going over this.
Cliff notes.
Well,
Ben knows the story. He's the best newsbreaker in Sydney.
Is he?
Yeah. Tony had some
I thought
still
Warren
knocks
Kappa was.
and it reacted.
Sam.
Right,
Sam.
I'm not going on with it. Right, and he borrowed a
Sam,
Uber driver's...
shut up.
Okay, right, okay.
Ooh.
Verboten.
So Doc, we haven't got onto this because we were going to do this in the second segment. Can you believe the sycophantic pariahs that have turned their back on Australia Day? I know someone told me you had on... Did you have on Mr. Cummins?
No, I had Nick Hockley, the boss of Cricket
yes, I
Australia,
beg your pardon.
on the show.
Yes.
And we had a very animated conversation.
Fantastic.
And you know what? He didn't even want to say. I said to him, my first question was, what day is it on Friday? And you could just hear there was this pause.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, oh, and he didn't want to say it. And then eventually he said Australia Day. I said, well, mate, it's not that hard, you see. If you can say it, why can't your organisation? And then I had the boss of Woolworths on this morning, Brad Banducci, because he's copping it deluxe as well because Woolies isn't selling any of the Australia Day merchandise. But I just think there's a lesson for big corporates in this. I mean, there's a few lessons. First of all, butt out and stay out of our lives and telling us what to think and what to say and how to behave. But also, when you've pulled the wrong chain, like the Woolies boss when he was on this morning, who I believe to be a very reasonable bloke, Brad Banducci, who does a lot for the community and charity. I know that because I'm associated with a charity that he also helps too. But why wouldn't you just go on radio and go, you know what, we've learned our lesson from this. We haven't been making money off the Australia Day merchandise for the last couple of years, but based on the noise from all of the Aussies who've been speaking up this week, we're clearly going to make some more next year. We're going to have it stocked for 2025. Sorry for the stuff up in 2024. Why not just own it, apologise and move on? Instead, as I said to Brad Banducci this morning, the boss of Woolworths, mate, you know, this problem will come back next year. We'll be talking about the same thing.
So he said that Woolworths is a very proud Australian company. What a oxymoron. How can you be a proud Australian company and not sell the merchandise and rip millions off the public who buy their products?
When did it become criminal to like celebrate our country? You know.
Yeah.
So then
it's a very strange place that we find ourselves in, and I think that you can't try and convince the mob of something when the mob's made up its mind, and the mob has made up its mind on these things. It's going to be harder now to change some of these things like Australia Day off the back of the Voice going down last year, because Aussies have now got lived experience about standing up for themselves, not eating the shit that they've been fed, and having a win at the end of the argument. So that's why on things like Australia Day and whatever, they'll be thinking, no, we're not going to buckle here, we're going to fight back.
Why can't we do this? Why can't Australia Day be about tomorrow? Why does it have to be about something in 1770? Australia Day should be about celebrating everybody in this country, everybody, banding together and showing why we are the best country in the world and every other country's divided. Have a look at the wars going on in every other country.
It is the best country in the world too.
So why can't we talk about tomorrow and forget about yesterday?
Hey, Sam, why don't we ask...
The people...
Tone, this man is...
No, you go, Tony. You go, Tony.
Ben, I would love to know your thoughts on Pat Cummins' comments.
Oh, well, look, he's got a strong opinion that he thinks that there could be a better day for Australia Day. And to be honest with you, I'm sick of starting every year with this reoccurring nightmare as well. And I don't care what day it's on as long as we have a day. It would make more sense to me to have it on the last Friday of January every year to guarantee us a long weekend. However, that is the date. It is January 26th. If it changes to another date, I'll celebrate Australia Day on that date. But right now, in 2024, it's on January 26th, so that's the date we celebrate it. I thought Pat Cummins was pretty good in that he didn't shy away from it. He just said, look, I love Australia. It's the greatest country on earth. But I do think there could be a more appropriate day to celebrate Australia Day, and we'd celebrate it on that day.
So,
at least he was owning his opinion, unlike Nick Hockley, the boss of Cricket Australia, who, when he was put on the spot yesterday, didn't know whether he was Arthur or Martha.
So, Doc, if you consider that Governor Phillip or Captain Cook or whoever you like to think came here and inhabited the country, Settlement Day, if you think that was January the 26th, what is the relevance of having Australia Day on any other day? That is the most relevant day to have it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's
wouldn't matter what day you have, everyone, there'll still be the naysayers.
There's also an element of like historical revisionism where they like want to rewrite history, where they want to change things. And this was in like 1984, where, you know, like in this kind of future dystopia where they would alter history. I think there's something disturbing like that going on with this.
Doc?
The other thing too is that when we change the date, or if we change the date, do you reckon the protests are going to stop?
That's what I say.
On your life. They'll happen anyway, whether it's January 28, January 1, January 26.
So what's the point
and
of
look,
changing it?
I'm growing increasingly frustrated about starting every single year with the same discussion, and maybe that's something that I confront more than others because that's my job. I'm a radio host, and my job is to reflect what people are talking about at the start of each year, but boy, it's like deja vu every single friggin' year.
So the tennis down here, they're not going to recognise Australia Day on Friday. Usually there's fireworks and the tennis stops for 5 minutes while the noise subsides. But the Melbourne City Council, they're having on Australia Day, they're not having any celebrations, but they're having an Australia Day Pride Day. They're having an Australian Open All Abilities Day, and they're having an Open Grand Slam LBGTQ Day. No mention of Australia Day, no celebration, but all the other peripheral agendas that the minority in this community push. Could someone take the country back and ask people to be realistic about the people who live in it?
And do you know what? If you want to save yourself all the controversy and the backlash and all of the drama, you just say to your stakeholders and your customers and your partners, look, we run a tennis competition. Our focus is having the best players in the world here and playing the best tennis. That's what we do. If you're Woolworths, you're better off saying, hey, listen, we're the fresh food people, right? That's our brief. That's what we do. We're all about getting the best food into our supermarket and servicing our customers. I think corporates going forward are going to learn the lesson from the Voice referendum and just say to anyone who's trying to get them to come in on some political campaign and try and change the world, just to say, hey, listen, we've got your back, we give you a pat on the back, we give you full support and whatever, but we aren't getting involved because this is not our business. If you're a radio host, focus on your radio show. If it's supermarkets, focus on food. If it's tennis, focus on tennis and leave the rest to other people.
So the test match is not going to, in Brisbane, is not going to recognise Australia Day, but they're going to have at the start of it a welcome to country ceremony. Who is running the whole thing? How to piss people off having a tired and irrelevant ceremony to welcome people to a country you don't need to welcome to and not recognising Australia Day on the actual test day?
Well, think about this. If we have been acknowledging, as we have been, the traditional owners and the leaders past, present and emerging every 15 minutes whenever there's one of these recognitions or ceremonies, why is it then that we're not allowed to celebrate Australia Day on Australia Day? I mean, I would have thought if you're spending all of that time acknowledging all of the people, past, present and emerging, and respecting people who have been here for 65,000 years, surely part of that transaction, if I can put it so crudely, should be, well, on the other side of the coin, yeah, go for your life. Celebrate Australia Day on January 26th. It seems to be a one-way street.
So why can't people just say that? What is the...
Because we have leaders who... we have leaders, Sam, who are piss weak. And you can see in other parts of the world...
It's ideology.
Where we do have the odd rogue president or prime minister who steps up and says, you know what, I'm not woke, I'm not politically correct, I'm not going to fall for all of this stuff. They are out there, so they do exist, but we just don't have them here at the moment.
The new leader of Argentina, for example, just went to Davos.
Correct.
And, delivered a blistering attack upon all this. It's ideology is what we're dealing with. And the problem with ideology is it affects not only politicians, but it affects the corporate world. And I think a lot of corporates go along with it. And it all comes from this thing, which is an ideology called diversity, equity and inclusion, which is all about celebrating every, kind of difference in a way, but not celebrating essentially something like Australia Day.
All these actors, Doc, are white as the driven snow and are falling over their dishonesty to portray their feigned virtuosity. It is so cringeworthy and it's so obvious.
And we've also got
pandering.
We were just talking about the bloke now running Argentina, but of course you've also got Trump, who's on the march again in the United States. New Hampshire is the new battleground. He's going to win that one as well. And now it's a 2-horse race, Donald Trump and Nikki Haley. So, in other words, it's a 1-horse race. It'll be Donald Trump up against Joe Biden. And I don't know. I can't see Joe Biden hanging in there. I think Trump is going to do it again. I think he's going to recreate history. What's the feeling there on the panel?
I agree.
100%. Trump's already in.
Yeah, I agree.
It'd be good if he wasn't so cocky. If he just said,
true.
I'm hoping to be the president and look like your support. Honestly, just have some presence of mind, not to piss people off completely.
And Sam, just one other one before I leave you guys.
Did you know I got a number plate? I got a number plate from Vic Roads here, and it's got on it. It's on my car at the minute. It's got MAGA 47, MAGA 47.
Beautiful.
Please well, explain. Vic Roads will probably cancel you.
No, I'll send you a picture of it.
Just don't park it.
Sam,
don't park it in Brunswick Street.
Right, yeah.
I just want to ask one quick one before I say goodbye. Sam, are you still in love?
Oh.
In love?
Well, his wife was just left.
She
was just here. She just left. She went to the bathroom.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I hadn't heard Sue Stanley OAM.
Well, confirm she's here. She's here.
There's 5 people occupying 4 microphones. She had something to attend to. She's arrived and she's gone. I don't know where she is, but she is here. The person that I'm associated with as far as the podcast goes, associated with just on a professional basis.
Right.
Nothing else.
Good to know that love, professionally speaking, is still in the air. Lovely news.
Ben, before you go, now that we know that Kyle and Jackie O are coming to Melbourne, any thoughts of you and 2GB entering the Melbourne airspace?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I think, well, look, when you consider, and this is something I should just point out, when radio ratings and things like that are mentioned, people will often say, someone's the most successful radio host or radio team in Australian history, whether it's AM or FM or Sydney or Melbourne. But just for the record, the most successful radio program in Australian history is the 3AW Breakfast Show. It's been number 1 forever. It rates up in the 20s a lot of the time.
Yep.
So there's no way in the world you'd ever replace that on 3AW. And let's face it, if you're in Melbourne, you want to wake up and find out from someone in Melbourne about what's going on in Melbourne, and same goes in Sydney. So music stations are a little bit different because they're not really talking about politics and stuff that's going on in that city. So no thought of me coming into Melbourne, and I'd stick with the 3AW Breakfast Show because they've been number 1 forever.
Finally, is there any thought, Doc, of you reigniting your push to get Don to speak to you or us or come back? You were given a task. I got a feeling you failed. I don't know. I don't want to say you're a failure because you're a very persuasive man, but I got a feeling. I got a feeling you fucked that up.
Well, I'm just having a look at my vision board for 2024. And there is a photo of a Don Scott on the vision board. So you can be assured that as I ask the universe to try and reward me for all of my saintly work that I do throughout the year, that my wish will finally come true in 2024 and Don Scott will return to the You Cannot Be Serious podcast.
Holy Christ. Bombora Jones, Percy Jones, or Pipeline Percy, he sent me a photograph of Roger Rogerson, which looked extraordinarily like Don, and he was wondering if it was Don, the late Roger.
Roger the Dodger.
Roger the Dodger. Bombora Jones, he's an ex-Carlton coach and footballer, and he catches the big surf down at Torquay.
Yeah, Roger the Dodger is dead. He's one of our notorious crime figures in Sydney. He was a corrupt copper and also a bloke who got involved in murder and all sorts of other stuff. And when he was an older man and everyone thought that he'd given up on his old ways, he went into a storage unit with 2 other people. So 3 men walked into the storage unit and only 2 walked out. And Roger the Dodger was one of those who walked out. A drug dealer by the name of Jamie Gow left there in I think a surfboard cover and was later dumped out at sea. And so that's why Roger was put back behind bars, and that's where he passed away. He was in jail when he passed away last week.
So he didn't dodge
one
that
of our colourful Sydney identities, and you're right, he couldn't dodge that one, and none of us can.
Doc, you've restored our faith in you. I thought I'd given you away, to be honest, and no, I hadn't heard from you, but what a delight that you've come back on. People just clamber to wonder.
Lovely to talk to you, boys, and we'll catch up in a couple of weeks.
On your
Good
Doc.
on you, mate.
Talk to you soon.
Right.
Ciao.
Right, now, without any further, we're just winding this up. We've gone far too long. The average person, Ivan, what are you doing? Yep, turn
He's
it off.
fiddling with his knob.
The average person has only an attention span of 45 minutes. We've gone over an hour, so that's it.